This episode of The Third Sector is made possible through the support of Indiana University East. Indiana University East leads the region as the premier four-year and master's public institution in Eastern Indiana and Western Ohio. Learn more at iue.edu. And by Civic Hall Performing Arts Center, with a great lineup for the Silver Anniversary Proudly Presenting series, including the Texas Tenors and In the Mood, a 1940s musical review. Ticket information available at civichall.com.
Hello and welcome to the Third Sector. In our society, there are three sectors: the public, the private, and the nonprofit. It's that third sector, the nonprofits, that we're here to explore today. My guest today is Josh Russell. I always mess up when Josh Russell.
It's a tongue twister.
Okay, I got it that time. From Center City Development Corporation. Welcome, Josh.
Thank you.
I'll try not to mess up your name the rest of the show.
Okay.
I think people are so confused about Center City, the Innovation Center, the incubator.
Mm-hmm.
How can you explain this to us so that we get it all straight?
Sure, that's a great question, and thanks for asking it, because I'm on a mission to clarify that with the community. So Center City Development Corporation, established in '87, we own the Innovation Center, so it is an asset of ours, if you will. In the future, perhaps we have additional assets to help control some of the development or spur some of the development in our community. But right now, we own the Innovation Center, and it's our job, our duty, to increase that value of that asset, if you will. And we've done that through hiring specific staff for that. Kate Barber is actually the director of the Innovation Center. So that's kind of a quick brush over how it's organized. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes. Because I know a lot of times people will say, well, I'm looking for the Innovation Center. And Center City Development Corporation. They're like, no, the Innovation Center.
Right.
So I wanted folks to understand that is a building.
Yep.
Center City Development Corporation controls that building.
That's correct. We do.
So now tell us, what is Center City Development Corporation?
Sure. So we are a community development organization. We're focused on all things community. We have kind of three pillars of excellence, if you will: the community engagement piece, the innovation piece, and what I'll call the resource development piece. Between those three pillars, those are the legs that keep our stool up, if you will. From the community engagement piece, we're looking to do things like facilitate meetings that are close to our hearts, if you will, that engage our community. So currently we're actually, we are facilitating the downtown business group meetings. Within the innovation pillar of excellence, if you will, we're focused on innovation and entrepreneurship, i.e. our Innovation Center. And then from the resource development standpoint, that's really from fundraising to grant writing to how do we keep the doors open to Center City Development Corporation.
All right, let's look at those three pillars and dive into them a little more deeply, if you could. And I'll let you start wherever you want.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, when I joined the organization a little over 4 months ago, I found a need to really get organized around our efforts. I saw a significant amount of marketing material that kind of spoke to very similar pillars of excellence that I've described to you. I really wasn't hung up on the nomenclature of any of them. I just wanted to be very specific. So there's a community engagement committee that runs our community engagement pillar of excellence, and that its path, its mission, if I could speak so, is truly dedicated to that of community engagement through, actually recently we became the financial conduit for the Meltdown. If you know, in the past, the Meltdown has had a couple of different homes in terms of who is helping them raise funds. and hopefully they found a long-term home with us because it does meet some of the needs of our community. With the innovation piece, I think that there's a number of questions we need to ask ourselves as a community to sustain the Innovation Center. We're a community that we like to work with our hands. We are. I'm not going to call it a blue collar versus white collar. It's just a matter of what folks like to do in their spare time or as a trade. And so I think there's a need for us to look deeper at the innovation side of our demographic. And that committee is dedicated to that, looking at programs and partnerships that kind of focus on that commitment from the committee and that pillar of excellence.
And is that where the incubator would fall?
Yeah, that's, and I even struggle to call it an incubator. An incubator is truly a place that ideas incubate. I think that I have lots of questions as to whether or not we really incubate ideas, or do we incubate inventions, or do we incubate, incubators, if I could just throw it, Launch Fishers, Launch Indy are both incubators that have incubated great ideas in terms of technology. And we are, we're farmers, right? We're hard workers. We're industrialists. We are those that have grown up in the manufacturing world. To incubate those types of technological ideas may not be the focus of our demographic, rather to incubate those, what I'll call, things that we make with our hands. Think of it of operating a CNC machine and learning how to operate a CNC machine. That would be a great thing that we could incubate. We could challenge someone to learn how to use that machinery. So I think long term we're going to look at how that best fits our demographic. But at this time, it's a great office space. It's a great community space. We've got lots of meeting room there. We've got tenants and coworkers, so those that pay a monthly rate to actually have an office there versus coworkers who just kind of pay a nominal fee to use the space in general. It's a great space. And then thirdly, the resource development. I mean, we've never, the Center City Development Corporation specifically has never received any funding. Any funding that has been received has been dedicated to the Innovation Center and the operation of it. That's taken away a little bit from a development corporation standpoint, and given our ability to impact and be that community resource. I think I was mentioned or quoted in the paper when I first started was I wanted to be a megaphone for the business community. And that's truly part of a community development organization's kind of list of to-dos. We need to look at how we're developing our downtown corridor, how it relates to other districts within our corridor, and that the funding we need to do that will be derived through that resource development pillar of excellence.
Some folks out there are going to say, well, I know they got tax money. Help us understand where the money came from for the Innovation Center and how that's being used.
So in the 2008 time frame, we received a certified tech park status. That money that we were gifted by the state is essentially managed by the Redevelopment Commission. So in the past, when the Innovation Center has needed some monies for operating costs or programs, the Redevelopment Commission has come through and provided those dollars. So it's very specific to be used for the Innovation Center, and it comes directly from the the Certified Tech Park funds, as opposed to our TIF funds. That's also managed by the Redevelopment Commission.
I know there's a lot of misunderstanding about how it's supported and by whom, and so I appreciate that piece of information.
Absolutely.
What else goes on in that building? You alluded to it just a minute ago with that you have business partners and folks. Tell us more about that part of your program.
We've got a handful of really good programs. One of my favorites is Richmond Social Media. It's a well attended. Every month, there's a couple of leaders that lead the program that do a wonderful job, and it certainly speaks to, from an entrepreneurial standpoint, it speaks to the use of social media in today's day and age and how it can impact your business as a bottom line. That's probably one of my favorite programs. Kate Barber, the director of the Innovation Center, is working on a couple of different ideas. I know one of them I probably shouldn't speak out loud right now. She's working on it. But I think that what you'll find is her dedication to new programming that can be impactful to our community is second to none. She's completely dedicated to it. The other thing that we do is we host a number of different events. The Business Ed Lunch for the Chamber of Commerce is one that we've done. We've had a great partnership with the Chamber of Commerce. We look to be a resource for the Chamber of Commerce members. So we look to any of those members to utilize our space for any type of meeting, whether it's a company-wide meeting, a specific division meeting, or say a sales meeting. And we hope to invite them into our space and utilize it for whatever their needs may be. So it's certainly still a technology hub. We've got lots of technology in there to run any kind of meetings needed. But it is a live and happening place, I can tell you that much. There's never a quiet moment.
And we've utilized your space a lot, but for the folks that aren't familiar with the building, maybe you could share with them a little bit the size of the rooms that you have, and if they have a need or an interest,
Sure.
How do they go about renting those rooms or using that space?
Sure. Well, the first thing I would do, there's two ways. I'm a little old-fashioned in that I like to call on the phone and speak with someone, so certainly call down to the Innovation Center anytime you like and speak with Kate Barber. She can help out. She was also instrumental, actually, it was one of her kind of number one duties to provide a platform that the Innovation Center uses to operate. So it's called Nexodus. I believe there's a link on our website, richmondinnovates.com. That platform allows for space rental, allows for tenants and coworkers to reserve their own rooms, pay rent. It's an interactive kind of a social platform as well, encapsulated, of course, within the organization. But so Nexodus is the name of that. It's pretty fantastic. So in terms of meeting spaces, we've got a pretty large. I think there's a capacity of around 150 allowed in our large A and B conference rooms. And that's obviously for larger activities. We've got what's called the Greenhouse Boardroom. And that is for a dozen or a little bit more folks to sit around in there, and all with multimedia functionality within each room. And then we've got a back boardroom. We kind of reserve that for our tenants and coworkers, but we have had a couple of situations where we've needed to utilize that just for general purposes. So between those, we've got I want to say 8 or 10 suites for offices that you can either rent as a tenant long-term or use as a coworker within the space. So if an office is open, you can go in and use it, essentially.
So those would be available to maybe a very small entrepreneur type situation.
Yeah.
Where they really just need a professional presence at times.
Absolutely. We've catered to one-man shops, to 2, 3, 4-man shops, if you will, not to use the word shop loosely. But I mean, as an example, there's a company that was started here in Wayne County, a web development company, and they had space in the Innovation Center, and once they grew big enough, they graduated and needed their own space, and it was exactly what this entrepreneurial space was designed for. It's to grow that business. And we've got resources there too. The Indiana Small Business Development Corporation is located there in our office. Scott Underwood is the representative there. He's there, I think, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and when we hear of new ideas or someone looking to open up some type of amenity in the downtown corridor or in the Depot District or in Star or in Old Richmond, we really look to engage them to help them best understand how to be successful in starting and operating a business. I mean, the last thing we want to do is see a business start up and fail. And so Scott Underwood and his resources certainly help us do that.
It really is a great resource for small businesses.
Yes, yeah. I agree.
And when Ron and I, started our business, that was one of the first places we went.
Yep.
No charge for the services, really good information, and I would encourage everyone to take advantage of that resource.
Yeah, I second that one, sure.
Yeah, absolutely is huge. Is there a time limit for your tenants? Do they, you say, okay, 3 months and then you're out of the nest?
Yeah, no, there's not. And I'm not saying that we would never have a time limit, but I think that when you're growing a business, if you grow to 3 or 4 people and you're starting to look at 5, 6, and 7 people, you'll see that space is just not conducive to effectively running a business. So we're not there to push people out. We're there to encourage proper operation of a business. That being said, if we had some folks that stuck around too long, if they're paying, at the end of the day, we're not looking to make money as an innovation center manager. We really are there to be a resource for the community, and we're at a break-even point. This idea, I don't think, was ever meant to be a quote-unquote profitable venture. Let's sustain ourselves, let's be a resource to the community, and kind of leave it at that. So no, I think we'll always try to cater to those businesses regardless of their size.
Tell us a little bit about how you're governed. As a nonprofit, I know you have to have a board, and so share with the folks how the organization is governed.
Sure. So in doing that, I'll describe a little bit of the organization's makeup. I've talked to you before that we have Center City Development Corporation. We own the Innovation Center as an asset. So when I speak about, say, the bylaws that govern our entity, I'm speaking specifically about the Center City Development Corporation, because that is truly what I operate. We've talked about the Innovation Center up to this point, and not that I'm not involved, but Kate Barber, the director of the Innovation Center, has really taken that space under her wings and put some great things in place. I focus a lot of my time on the Development Corporation. And when I did start with the Development Corporation, we needed to do some cleanup, myself and the board, and I commend the board for their passion and bringing me into the fold, for that matter. So the first thing we did was we looked at, in working with OCRA, the Office of Community and Rural Affairs, we spoke with them about kind of right-sizing our organization and getting back to what we felt is our roots in representing the community, because we are a Main Street designated organization. So what that means is there is an Indiana designation called a Main Street designation, and that's managed through the Office of Community and Rural Affairs, or OCRA. And they kind of advised us on how to best size our organization in terms of board members, what our bylaws should say. So in that process, we reduced our number of board members from 25 down to 15. And with that size, it's a little more manageable. 3 of those designated board positions are specific to other entities around the county. So the Urban Enterprise Association is represented with 1 board seat. The EDC of Wayne County is represented with 1 board seat. And then the Chamber of Commerce is represented with 1 board seat. So that leaves us with 12 board members voted on by the membership. And actually this November, I think it's November or December, we'll have our kind of second board meeting of the year to vote in a slate of officers, because we've got about, I want to say 6 or 7 at different slates slated for openings for the board.
Super.
Yeah.
Are those folks all from Wayne County? Is there a region that you pull from?
That's a good question. Yes, definitely from Wayne County. I don't believe it would be, I don't think it would be very representative of our Development Corporation's constituency if we did not have them from Wayne County. So yes. And further, I really try to have a good cross-section. Now, our vice president of the executive committee is the one who's putting together the slates, if you will. Our board sends recommendations to that person, and as well do I. And we're really looking for some strong candidates. We're looking for thoughtful leaders within the community who have a stake in what we're doing. So that would pull from all of our 5 institutions, from the Depot District, from the Main Street Corridor, from the Star District, from Old Richmond. We're looking to tap into any resources we can there.
Mm-hmm. So something you just said made me think that you have a specific area that you cover. Tell us a little more about that.
Yeah, so that's a good question too. So the Main Street designation in our past for this organization was focused on a very, I'd call it a small area, from 5th Street to 10th Street and from North A to South A. Well, if you pull that on up a map, it's pretty specific to Main Street. And while we are a Main Street designated community, it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to stay on Main Street for that designation. So another recommendation by Okra was to increase our boundary size. So now our Main Street designation boundary includes from Simhodgen Parkway down to the high school, along East Street to 16th Street to Northeast Street. So that pretty much encapsulates what I just said, the Depot District, the Star District, Old Richmond, the schools, Main Street. And I think it's best to clarify exactly what that designation provides to us as a community. Any instance where Okra has a grant program that they are looking for communities to take part in, and they do that quite often. In fact, we're being considered for a grant opportunity I can't speak of. The grant hasn't been fully developed, but I know that we're under consideration for it. But when we receive that grant, if our Main Street boundary is a certain size, which we've changed, we can impact anything within that boundary with that grant. So before it was just 5th to 10th and A to A. Now we've got Simhodgen to 16th and E to E. So larger area, more impact, just trying to be more inclusive.
Absolutely.
More unification.
In our last little bit of time here, I'd like to hear, and I've heard you say this before, but what do you want to do going forward? I know you have some specific plans and you want to see this grow and thrive. So share with us a little of your vision for the next few years.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I would say our mission, and I mean that truthfully, it is a full-on team effort with the board of directors, Kate Barber, and I failed to mention yet, Jennifer Radford, who's our director of marketing communications. It is a joint effort on all of our parts to really focus on the data to lay the groundwork for a strategic plan. Many know that the city themselves are going through an update on the comprehensive plan. That update will be, we'll look at the past comprehensive plans, but maybe more importantly, putting specific executable items and timelines to them. Likewise, with our strategic plan for the Main Street corridor, we hope to do the same thing and allow it to become a chapter, if you will, of the comprehensive plan. But I think what I recognized when I joined the organization 4 months ago was that we've got a lot of passionate leaders on the board who, and I don't think I don't mean to take a jab at any one of our board members, but a lot of passion, little focus. And what I mean by that is we had board members who are just fantastic board members, but we're going in lots of different directions. And with the state of our downtown, with all the construction going on, and me, born and raised in the city of Richmond, knowing what our assets are, I really wanted to bring an outside consultant in and take a hard look at what our assets are from a building standpoint, from a job standpoint, from a demographic standpoint in terms of who our citizens are, and then really put the right strategic plan together to revitalize it. And I think that this is a little bit of an industry that I came from, design, construction, and economic development. But I would not be doing myself any justice by saying that this is my idea. This really is a collaborative effort, and I think what the community will see over time is more of these conversations, hopefully in a town hall setting, maybe we have them at the Innovation Center, but really engaging the community in what we want to be when we grow up, if you will. I think one of the things we have to recognize is that this community is not going through anything different from any other community. Other communities have seen this type of loss in jobs or impact to the downtown corridor. And many communities have rebounded, and I think we certainly have the makeup to rebound properly. So.
You mentioned downtown is part of that plan to also include the inventory downtown and maybe come up with a plan to really bring some new businesses down there that fit.
Yeah, I think, here's a great example. Elder Behrman and the Bonton Corporation, who are vacating the city here, I think at the end of this month. That's 55,000 square foot footprint, 110,000 square feet of space in our downtown corridor that will be vacated. And everybody has a great idea how to fill that space. And what I'm kind of advising our board in considering is we're not the only community to have lost its anchor building. So let's look at what other anchor buildings have done in terms of reuse. And explore those possibilities and utilize it as truly what it was meant for, as an anchor to our downtown. So I definitely think we need to look at all the vacancies and say to ourselves, what are these vacancies best used for? Are they Starbucks and Subway? Well, I'm here to tell you that Starbucks and the Subway probably aren't the best spot downtown because it doesn't meet their mission. So we have to kind of mix it. We have to find companies or business ideas that meet the mission of our downtown and vice versa.
Right. So we're down to about a minute.
Okay.
So what do we need to know that I haven't asked you yet?
Well, I think the biggest thing you hit on pretty heavily in the beginning of our conversation, that is a really good look at what we are as an organization. I am on a whirlwind tour of speaking engagements where I really want to help the community best understand what we are as a development corporation, what the Innovation Center is, the relationship between the two, and what the Development Corporation should be doing moving forward. And I think we hit on all those. And certainly if you have, or any of your viewers have any questions, I'm always available for conversation. I try to return every phone call and email. I can promise you I don't, but I try. But I think we hit the hot spots, which are communicating to as many people as I can the who we are and what we're doing.
Well, I appreciate you being here today, Josh. I say this almost every show, but I thought I knew what was going on, and still I learned, and that's why we do this. We want to have good information out there, and thank you so much for being our guest today.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. And thank you for joining us on the Third Sector.
This episode of The Third Sector is made possible through the support of Indiana University East. Indiana University East leads the region as the premier four-year and master's public institution in Eastern Indiana and Western Ohio. Learn more at iue.edu. And by Civic Hall Performing Arts Center, with a great lineup for the Silver Anniversary Proudly Presenting series, including the Texas Tenors and In the Mood, a 1940s musical review. Ticket information available at civichall.com.